Okay, so unfortunately, I found out just before I had to deep clean my home for an entire day that not only was I going to be made lead of this team this weekend for our lovely cocktail theater out in Huntsville, Alabama, which was a 10-hour drive, we are also stacked for shows. So that means that I wasn't going to have my beloved Sunday to take this video as I had originally planned. So we're here, and this is the kitchen. Say hello, everybody, to my professor who will be watching this. So I do apologize for all the background noise and all the other things that are happening, but I did want to make clear the space and setting that I'm working in and doing this assignment in. I hope that you enjoy this video. I will try to make it as professional as I can, given the circumstances. So thank you for your patience, and enjoy. Perhaps it should come as no surprise that industries across the globe, and especially IO psychology, were all heavily impacted by the COVID-19 2020 outbreak. Seemingly overnight, offices were emptied, employees were asked to work in the safety of their own homes, and leaders had to make sudden decisions that would affect the future of businesses as well as their employees and productivity indefinitely as they rolled with the punches. And IO psychologists were collecting evidence in real time. The biggest concern was whether employees could keep up their productivity working in their homes or non-traditional workplaces outside of the office. Psychologists were now studying remote versus hybrid work, burnout, employee resources, and wellness, as well as mental health. Companies started investing in employee resources, flexible scheduling, and wellness programs. And it turns out, productivity seemed to depend less on where employees worked and more on whether they felt supported. And then came artificial intelligence, throwing all industries, including IO psychology, into yet another fit of change. And it's still changing dramatically. The question now is, how and where does AI fit into recruitment, training, performance management, and even creative output? Is there a line? And where is it? We're now delving into ethics, bias, and even whether AI can even be trusted. And regardless of the answer, I bet you can find it in just about every business anywhere. I suppose we'll find out retroactively. The biggest change since 2020 is that while many businesses have decided to become increasingly people-friendly, others have moved to automate more processes than not. Now, personally, I'm incredibly curious to find out how this will play out in the future, not just globally, but also for the individual, socially, economically. And I don't think I'm the only one. Have you ever noticed that organizations often complain they can't find good people? Sometimes the problem isn't that qualified people don't exist, but that the organization isn't looking in the right places. One thing I liked about this chapter is how much recruitment has changed. It isn't just about filling jobs anymore. It's about finding the right people for the job, and even before the position opens. If I were consulting for a university that wanted a pool of more diverse and highly qualified faculty, my first piece of advice would be pretty simple. Stop looking in the same places. If you always recruit from the same universities, attend the same conferences, and post on the same job boards, you're probably going to get the same applicants. Instead, I'd build relationships with HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, tribal colleges, international universities, and professional organizations that support underrepresented scholars. I'd also encourage networking year-round. Attend conferences, create mentorships, offer fellowships, invite visiting scholars. Because recruitment shouldn't start when someone quits. It should always be happening. High performers almost always have options. That's why keeping great employees is just as important as hiring them. If I were consulting with a manager, I'd tell them to start by getting to know their employee. What motivates them? What are their goals? What kind of support do they need? Not everyone is motivated by the same thing. Now, this prompt specifically talks about work-family conflict. That's when work starts interfering with someone's life outside of work, or personal responsibilities begin affecting work. Research shows that when this happens too often, stress increases, job satisfaction decreases, and employees become much more likely to leave. But Managers can help in simple ways. They can offer flexible schedules whenever possible, respect employees' time after work, encourage people to actually use their vacation days, and keep workloads realistic. You can have real conversations, ask how things are going at home, ask what support they need, because consistently at the end of the day, support from supervisors always makes a huge difference. Employees notice when managers genuinely care about their success, and that trust often leads to stronger organizational communication. People stay where they feel valued, and they stay even longer when they feel supported as people, not just employees. Retention isn't about making people happy every single day. It's about creating an environment where they can succeed over the long term. And I think that's one of the smartest investments an organization can make. Have you ever read a job description and wondered what that person actually does? Because I have. Now, this chapter reminded me of something I notice all the time. A lot of job descriptions focus more on personality than performance. You'll see things like dependable, trustworthy, positive attitude, team player. These are behaviors that help the organization even though they aren't officially part of the job duties. Basically, these are characteristics that often make somebody more enjoyable to work with, but competence should still come first. And I've personally worked cross industry, and I've found that this is true regardless of where you work. For instance, I could be an amazing person to work with, but still a pain to have to deal with on the job. A great example I like to refer to most is the job that I work at currently that you saw earlier. You see, when we have a team of 5 people. Oftentimes we are serving anywhere between 200 to 300 individuals 4 times in the span of 1 hour and a half. That means we are creating cocktails, we are acting, we're doing the AV, we are doing crowd control, we're serving the drinks, bussing the drinks, making sure that people are satisfied and happy, and staying on time during all of this. And if even one of those 5 people lacks competence in any area, the whole team and show suffers. Unfortunately, I can think of many examples of individuals I've worked with in any industry who were amazing to be with. I would even consider them a friend, but if I had to work with them on a project or a show, I would lose my mind. Another great example of somebody who has to be both competent and have a great personality is personal training. Because in order to even get somebody to buy personal training, you have to have a good personality. You have to be a good salesperson. You have to be able to convince them that they want to spend an hour plus with you every single week and doing something they really don't want to do. But you also have to do it right. Can they perform assessments? Can they build evidence-based workout programs? Can they teach proper technique? Can they modify exercises safely? Can they track client progress? And I'd also include measurable expectations, things like client retention, personal development, and those give applicants a much clearer image of what the expectations will actually look like for success. Bottom line, task performance and organizational citizenship behaviors should always work together. One shouldn't replace the other, and the strongest employees usually demonstrate both. When productivity drops, it's easy to blame the employees first. But one thing I really appreciate about organizational psychology is that it asks us to look deeper. Instead of asking who's the problem, it asks what's causing the problem. In this scenario, employees are working fewer hours than expected. Before assuming they're unmotivated, I'd start by looking at the organization itself. The textbook talks about organizational constraints, things that make it harder for employees to do their jobs well. That could be unclear expectations, poor communication, ineffective leadership, not enough training, or simply not having the right tools to succeed. If recognition, promotions, or accountability seem inconsistent, motivation can start to decline, and over time, that can lead to counterproductive behaviors. Before making changes, I'd gather information. I'd talk with employees, use surveys, and I'd especially look for patterns instead of isolated situations. After this, I'd focus on fixing the barriers, improving communication, and making sure supervisors are giving employees the support they need. To me, this chapter is a good reminder that behavior actually has a cause. And yeah, sometimes the employee is the issue, but sometimes the organization has created conditions that make success much harder than it should be. And in some cases, 2 things can be true at once. Now, this reminds me of Proverbs 18:13, which says, "To answer before listening, that is folly and shame." I think that fits this chapter perfectly. Because good leaders don't rush to conclusions. They listen, they collect evidence, they act. That is also the heart of the scientist-practitioner approach in IO psychology, using evidence before making decisions. And I think that's a lesson every organization can benefit from.